Welcome to 10-Minute AI. I'm Dr. Jonathan Luckett. Together, we'll unpack big ideas in AI, one quick bite at a time.
There's a revolution happening right under our noses, and it's kind of wild how little we're all talking about it. I'm talking about artificial intelligence, of course. So in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into the really urgent questions Senator Bernie Sanders is asking about AI, and what its incredible rise actually means for every single one of us.
And Sanders really kicks things off with a statement that's, well, it's impossible to ignore. He's saying that the whole idea of a superintelligent AI taking control of the planet, that's not just for the movies anymore. It's a real fear, held by the very people who know this tech inside and out. Right away, this sets the stage for a conversation with some incredibly high stakes.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big one. Who is actually in control here? Then we'll get into the direct hits on jobs and democracy. From there, we'll zoom out and look at what all this means for humanity and the planet itself, touch on the scary future of warfare, and then wrap up with the call for a real public discussion. So, first up, and this is maybe the most fundamental question of all, while this world-changing technology is being built, who's actually at the wheel?
And this really gets to the absolute heart of Senator Sanders' concern. He's making the point that our entire future is being designed by a tiny, unelected group. So the real question isn't just should AI exist, it's who gets to decide the rules for it.
According to Sanders, these are the key players. We're talking about tech billionaires who are just pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into AI. His argument is that their own personal visions, their goals, they're essentially programming our collective future. And all of this is happening with almost zero public input.
Wow. Yeah, the resistance to any kind of oversight is intense. Sanders points to this quote from Peter Thiel, and it really shows you the mindset here. It's a view that sees government regulation not just as a pain, but as some kind of moral evil. It just goes to show how tough it's going to be to get any kind of democratic control over this stuff.
Okay, so what does all this concentrated power actually look like in the real world? Let's talk about the immediate impact this could have on our jobs and on the health of our democracy.
The numbers here are just mind-boggling. A report that Sanders cites projects that AI and automation could wipe out nearly 100 million jobs in the U.S. alone in just the next decade. This isn't a small shift. We're talking about a potential economic earthquake.
And look, it's not hitting just one corner of the economy. We're looking at huge potential job losses across the board, from teaching assistants and accountants all the way to truck drivers. The scale of this change is just immense.
And, this isn't some critic on the outside making a dire prediction. Sanders points out that key insiders like Elon Musk are openly saying that a future is coming where jobs, as we know them, just won't exist. Which brings up a massive question. If work is optional, how do people live? How do you pay for a roof over your head, for food, for healthcare?
And beyond just the economy, there's a huge potential threat to democracy. Sanders brings up this quote from Larry Ellison, who, by the way, is investing billions in AI, and he's literally envisioning a future of total surveillance. The same tech that can automate your job can also automate watching you.
So this is the bottom line, right? If our privacy is totally gone, if every single thing we say and write is being logged and analyzed by the companies that own the AI, what happens to free speech? What happens to dissent? What happens to the very idea of a democratic society?
But the impacts go even deeper than that, really touching on what it means to be human, and on the actual physical health of our planet.
Just think about this data for a second. It's from a recent poll. A huge majority of American teenagers have already used AI for companionship, and more than half of them are doing it regularly. I mean, that suggests we're already starting to outsource human connection to algorithms.
This brings us to a really deep, philosophical question. We're social animals, right? We're shaped by our relationships with family, with friends, with our community. So what happens to our humanity, to our empathy, when our most important confidants are not other people?
And then there's the physical toll. This digital revolution has a very real, very resource-heavy footprint. The data centers that make all this AI stuff possible, well, they are incredibly thirsty for electricity and water.
And to put a number on that, Sanders notes that one new data center being built by Meta is expected to use as much electricity as over 1.2 million homes. Think about that. As this technology gets bigger and bigger, the strain on our environment could become massive, affecting everything from local ecosystems to our own electric bills and water supplies.
Okay, this brings us to some of the heaviest concerns of all, the weaponization of AI and the potential risks it poses to our very existence as a species.
Think for a moment about how the politics of war works. Leaders often think twice about a conflict because they have to answer to the public when soldiers die. But Sanders is asking, what happens when wars are fought by robot armies? What happens when there's no human cost on your side of the ledger?
And that is the terrifying possibility here. If you remove the political price of war, which is the loss of human life, does that make it way easier to start a conflict? Could this just kick off a never-ending arms race of autonomous weapons? It's a chilling thought.
This all leads to the ultimate existential question. Sanders cites Dr. Jeffrey Hinton, literally one of the pioneers of this technology. They call them the godfather of AI. And even he is now warning that AI becoming smarter than us isn't a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So, with all these enormous challenges on the table, what's the path forward? What do we do?
At the end of the day, the core message is simple, but it's incredibly powerful.
This can't be a revolution that's dictated from the top down by a few billionaires. According to Sanders, these questions are just too important to be left to the tech industry to figure out on their own. They require a national and probably a global conversation that has real democratic oversight. And that leaves us with the final defining question. The technology itself is just a tool. The choice we have to make, as Sanders frames it, is whether that tool will be used to build a better, fairer world for everyone, or if it's going to lead to a future that benefits a tiny few at the expense of everyone else. That, he argues, is the discussion we absolutely have to start having right now.
That's today's 10-Minute AI. I'm Dr. Jonathan Luckett. See you next time for another fast take on the future.